Nothing beats being surrounded by the lovely lush emerald green of a lawn, especially during the summer. In fact, the colour green has been shown to be positively good for our mental health. But there are lots of environmental benefits to be had too from a natural lawn. Not only does the grass absorb particulate pollution, but it also absorbs carbon dioxide, one of the main greenhouse gases. And there's the added benefit that it allows rainwater to soak slowly and steadily into the ground underneath, stopping surface runoff and the chances of flash flooding. But not everyone's got a lawn that they can be proud of. So I'm going to take you through step by step how to replace it, getting the ground ready to sow a new lawn from seed or to returf it using the UK's best-selling Rolawn Medallion turf. Now, it's possible to make a new lawn really at any time of year, as long as it's not too frosty during the winter and as long as it's not too hot and dry in the summer. Ideally, the best time to make a new lawn is either in the spring or the autumn, when there's plenty of moisture around and the soil's nice and warm to get good growth nice and strongly. The one thing to be really careful of though is not to lay new turf on top of pre-existing grass, because you'll never get the grass in the turf rooting through into the soil underneath. It's really key that you strip any old grass off first before you start to create a new lawn. You can stack that turf and the little bit of topsoil in a pile in the corner of the garden and let it rot down into the most wonderful topsoil if you've got a little bit of time to do it, and of course the space. Meantime, with the old grass stripped out the way, you can get on with the job of forking through the ground, getting rid of any big stones or bricks or large clods of earth, and keeping an eagle eye out for any perennial weeds, which you really do need to move now before you put the new lawn down, because you don't want them coming back through it at a later stage. As you do it, you can get a gauge, a feel for how deep the soil is. If you go down the depth of the tines of the fork, for example, and you suddenly come across a solid obstruction, then you know that the soil isn't terribly deep. But if the soil seems nice and open and deep, and you've got a depth of around 100 millimeters or so, that's about 4 inches, then that should be enough to support a really good new lawn. If you haven't got much topsoil, then it's a good idea to get some in from a really reliable source. Something like Rolawn's turfing and seeding topsoil, which contains good levels of organic matter, around 8% of peat-free organic matter, but also it's quite sandy and free-flowing, which will make your turfing and seed sowing a lot easier. If you want to work out just how much topsoil you'll need, then visit the product calculator page at rolawn.co.uk. Once you've loosened the topsoil and spread any new topsoil around, then you can use a rake to roughly level it. Then walk up and down using your heels to consolidate the soil and to break up any large clods, and scuff it generally level. Next, you can rake again to get a level surface and use a straight edged length of timber to check for dips and mounds. So with all the ground preparation done and reasonably level over the whole area, we're now ready to either use grass seed like this, the Medallion grass seed, again from Rolawn. Don't use too much of it though, use about 1 handful for every metre squared or yard squared. Don't oversow, don't put too much down, because it will just be a feast for the birds. So put that down and then rake it in and you're ready to go. And take about 6-8 weeks to really germinate thoroughly, and you'll get a nice sward gradually during the course of the summer if you do that in the spring. Alternatively, you could now get to this stage and put some turf down, and that's what we're going to do. So I'm going to use Rolawn's Medallion turf. This is the UK's top selling turf, really good quality, produced nice and thin so that you don't get too much weight. It makes it much easier to lay and get down, and also this nice even depth means that you can get an even lay on the turf, so it's a really good choice. If you've got a straight edge to work to, like a path or a patio edge, then start there and lay your strips of turf along there. Makes it easy to get the brickwork pattern that you need to create. But I haven't got a straight edge to work to here, so I'm going to start in the middle of the area that I've prepared and work my way outwards. When you lay each consecutive turf, make sure that you butt the joints nice and closely together. Push the turfs together and make them nice and snug. And when it comes to laying each individual row, make sure that they overlap like you would see in a brick wall pattern, so that the joints don't line up with one another. If you overlap them, you'll find that the whole thing will knit together much more effectively. When you've laid each individual row, tap it in place with the head of a rake to consolidate the turf and to put the underside in contact with the underlying soil. That makes it much more likely to root into the soil underneath. If needs be, heap a little of the light topsoil mix over the bare edges of the lawn so that you can protect them from drying out, and then after a few weeks or so you can always rake that excess away. It just stops those edges from drying out and curling up. Now, it's really important to water the turf if there's no signs of rain in the first couple of days or so. I always like to use a watering can and use watering butt water, but apply plenty of water so that it soaks down and encourages the roots to go down into the soil underneath. So there we are. It's that ground preparation. It's really important. Make sure that you get some really good quality topsoil. Rolawn turfing and seeding mix is a really good topsoil to use, but you can mix it with your own topsoil and then either seed onto that using a medallion seed mix, or put turf down using that best-selling Rolawn medallion turf. You'll get a lawn really, really quickly, and a lawn to be really proud of.